Okay, using the phrase how come instead of why works really well in just daily relaxed conversation, right? I always say questions are really important because questions allow for conversations to go deeper. They allow for conversations to transition. They allow for conversations to get to know each other, right? If somebody tells you something, ask them a question about it. Allow them to open up a little bit more, go into a little bit of detail, be curious, right? Curiosity is really the key to having more interesting conversations and becoming a more interesting person, right? But sometimes I think people get a bit scared to ask questions because maybe they feel like, I mean, I don't know, you tell me as well. I'd love to hear, like, if you're somebody that struggles to really ask questions and maybe take the lead a little bit in conversation, tell me why. Because I think sometimes maybe people worry about being a little bit too nosy. Maybe they worry about it feeling like an interrogation. You know, I think there's a way to do it that feels a lot more natural. And I think sometimes how come sounds a little bit more curious. It sounds a little bit more inquisitive rather than like, why? Why did you do that? Right? So if somebody tells me like, oh, I started reading this new book today, why are you reading that? It might feel a little bit aggressive, right? But like, oh, how come you chose that book? That allows maybe a little bit more curiosity. It feels a little bit less, I don't know. Like, I think so much of it with English speaking, to be honest, is really about your energy and your tone of voice. And I think if you're coming from a place of non-judgment, like when you're in a conversation with somebody, if your genuine intention is to just get to know them, be curious, find out about them, just from a place of purely wanting to be curious and getting to know them, that energy is going to be felt, right? And likewise, if you're like interrogating someone because you're like judging them, that energy is also going to be felt, right? So I think sometimes don't overthink the words. It is more about your intention, your energy, right? How you're treating the other person. But I do think in just a general conversational environment, how come it just feels a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more curious than like, why?